Hello all, thank you for having subscribed to Running Sport YouTube channel. It's an honor to have you in our community. If you haven't subscribed yet, we humbly encourage you to subscribe for you to support us, but also to stay tuned and get notified once new content, new tutorials are published. They are very helpful to you. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share with your loved ones to keep them updated and give them free access to amazing tutorials that will change the way they do their things. Today's topic is if functions in Microsoft Excel. We are going to see how you can leverage if functions to do multiple calculations in a very simple and quick way. Here's the content plan. We will deal with Sumif, Averageif, Countif, Sumifs, Averageifs, and Countifs. As already highlighted, we are going to start with Sumif. Here is our plan. Sumif, Averageif, Countif, Sumifs, Averageifs, and Countifs. Let's start with Sumif function. It is very important that I start with explaining this dataset that we have here. We have student ID in column A. This is like a column where we have student IDs. Here we have department where these students are allocated, where to which they belong to. Then you have score. The score they have get probably over a certain period of time, maybe an academic term. The attendance they have had, the number of assignments they attended to, then fees paid just during that period of time. Now, let's say that we would like to see like the total of fees paid by students in a certain department, maybe business, maybe arts or science. Let's first have these departments highlighted somewhere where we'll be looking like doing our calculations. I- It could be an easy way coming and just try to type them here. This I also want to show you a quick trick of just pasting them at once and just remove duplicates so that will remain with each department pressed here only once. Let's select something like this where we actually want them to be. Then we go to data. From data we click advanced. Then we have copy to, it's already highlighted, you see J5 up to J11 much probably. Then we click unique record only. We also copy to another location. This is the one we have highlighted. Maybe it's not the light one 100%. So I will need to select again like this. Okay. Now we click OK. This says the destination range is not large enough to accommodate all copied rows. Data below the destination range will be lost. Continue copying anyway. Like I have selected um, a few cells compared to the data I have selected. So let me just say yes. We have these ads again selected, but we actually don't need this department thing. I prefer deleting it and just keeping these departments alone. Now let's try to calculate the total of here we have questions that will be guiding us. You see, like when I come this second sheet, we have some questions. They are not in order compared to the content plan there, but you see here we have use question number 2. Use Sumif to find the total fees paid for students in the science department. For us, we try to look for the entire departments just to be more practical. Let's go. Here we have to start with an equal sign. Then you have Sumif. We just type the word sum if, and we have Sumif and Sumifs. We will need to go with Sumif first. We have to understand the syntax. When you choose a formula, Excel is very excellent enough to direct you with these, like telling you this is a range, this is a criteria, this is sum range. So they are first asking us a range. And in this case, a range is where the criteria will be identified from. So where do we have departments? That is column B1 up to B and the other number below, which is 1001. After selecting this data, we need to add a comma for us to be able to add the criteria. After adding this comma, Excel is now showing you that you are now next to criteria by bolding that specific level. When you were still on a range, this was the bolded text, but now that we need to enter a criteria, it's the one which is bolded here now. Here we can select business like G5 because that's where I have the department name business. After again selecting this department A, like this criteria business, we will also add a comma. For all formula in Excel, we separate items by a comma. Then the next thing is a sum range. Like they're showing us that the sum range here means where are the numbers that will be summed up after checking the formula. That is the trick here. And of course, we are dealing with fees paid by certain students in a certain department. Here we need to select the department where we have fees. And as you know, when there are no other items, when we are close to closing the formula, we don't add another comma. Instead, we immediately have a closing bracket, like you have an opening one here. Now click enter. This means the total of amount of fees paid by students in business is just 60,550. Like you read the number. Then what else do I need to tell you here? We all know the trick of copying formulas like this, but we will sometimes get it incorrect if we don't use this other trick that I'm going to tell you. When you check like this formula bar, you will see that the data here range starts from B2 up to B1001. The condition or criteria is in J5, and then the sum range is in F2 up to F1001. That is the case on business. But when we go next to engineering, we see that the data has started from B3 up to B1002. The same applies to sum range. This is because our data is not locked, and we need to lock it from the very first formula we try before we copy. Before we copy. There are two ways of copying your data, of locking your data. You can do it manually by adding a dollar sign in front of these numbers. And I'm adding the dollar sign in front of numbers to mean when I move down, the numbers or the data the source of the data should not change, should be just the same data as I did from the very first uh, formula or calculation. If I think I will also paste the data rightward or leftward, I can also lock the letters to ensure when I move left, right, the source of the data will not change. When it comes to criteria, now that I need like Excel to know that I've moved the next to another cell and skip business but capture engineering, I will not lock this. Instead, I will come and lock the sum range similar to the criteria range. This is the one way of doing it manually like this, as you say, I'm doing it. But there is also another way of quickly clicking F4 button and it's done. Now I click enter. Then I can copy again the formula. It seems like there are no changes due to like departments followed each other like the way they are here. But if uh, without doing this locking, it is much likely that you can do some mistakes. I think here everyone is able to sum things based on a certain criteria, just using one criteria. And I think the more we practice, the more we will get it. Let's now try count if function. Now that you have seen how I copied and pasted a long list of data but chose to remain with non-duplicates, so I will not redo the process but just copy these departments that I need to have and go on with the formula. If we can check again from our questions, we were asked to count how many students scored above 8. This is also something doable. But now that I have had these departments, let's just first count like students per department. Here we go with count if we see range and then criteria. We have only two items in the formula. The range is again where this criteria will be checked and it's again in a department. Let's just select the department. We add a comma. Then we also select the criteria space, which is M5. Now we close the bracket, then you click enter. This means among these 1000 students, only 232 are the students in the business department. I need to show you one more thing before we again, maybe we can first lock the data set, like the range. As I told you, you just click F4. It's locked, as you can see. I didn't type the dollar signs manually, and I'm not locking the criteria because when we copy down, we need this to be like changing to move from M5 to M6, M7, like that. I will click enter. But before we try copying down the formula, I need to show you another way of adding this criteria. We can again do Countif. Let's do a Countif again. We select the range as usual. And instead of directly selecting where I have the criteria, we can use quotation marks and add the criteria manually. We can do like this, then type engineering. Like this, we close the quotation mark and then we close the bracket. This could be it. We are done. We have 280 of students dealing with engineering. This is something very doable, but the problem with this, you cannot copy down the formula. because when you copy down, it's still engineering which is coming, not Excel automatically considering science as we can as we did here. When we copied from the very first response to the next one, the condition here was J5, which is business, but when we reached here, it was J6, which is engineering, and you can see responses have been different. But you see here on engineering and science, we have similar responses. And of course, here we have like on arts, we have a few of them only because like the starting point of the range has been changing. Here it has started on B2, like for engineering, and on science it has started on B3, and then for arts it has started on G4, like because the data is not locked. Awesome. Let's do Control Z. That was just to take you through. And now that you have this data locked, we better copy like the formula down using this formula handle. You can see that we have 250 students in arts, while we have 258 in science and so forth. So our question was asking us to calculate students who scored above 80. Now let's also work around that. Students with above 80 score. Simple. Let's work around these two and see maybe what if we are given other conditions, not just checking like something like a department or maybe a globe, but a manual condition like that having performed or achieved something higher than this or from above this. Let's go with, again, we will go with count an equal sign, then a countif. Again, we will need to highlight. We will again have to highlight the range, and the range is where we will check our data from. And now that we are going to deal with numbers like those who scored above 8, this means the range where the criteria will be checked is data about score, and we select from here up to the end of the data. Then we add a comma as usual. After adding a comma, now they have required us to select data above 80, and we use like greater than 80. We close our bracket and click enter. We have an error message, and that is because we have not added quotation marks in this manual data. Now we have 209. This is like the number of students who have scored above 80. If we can change any number from here, the response will be changing automatically. Let's, for instance, have 90 here. You can see it's changing. Let's have 100 here. You see, because we have already learned the formula. If we have maybe again 81 here, it's changing. If we remove this and have 50, the number goes down, as you can see, because we already dealt with the formula. You can see. This is it. That's how you can address the question if it was an assignment. Now, after Sumif and Countif, we can also do Averageif. Let's check the question that was assigned to us about Averageif, and that is the question number 3. Use Averageif to calculate the average score of students in engineering. For us to do more, we can also like check average score of students across all departments like we've done on Sumif and County functions just to keep you like familiar with the exercise. Now let's say average if. Again, as you have seen how to copy and paste data by leaving out duplicates, I'm not concerned again with that, but I will copy them from here and paste. Now need a function here. We will then start from here. The process is a bit similar. If you have already followed up, you can, if you have already followed me, you can really do it even if I don't show the process. But here I am to demonstrate each and everything for you to be very familiar and capable of doing things. Always, when you think of an Excel formula, you need to make sure you start with an equal sign, then average if. You select from these options and make sure you select average if. Now we have some syntax in the formula and we are going to see what are they. We have range, we have criteria, and you have average range. Here, like we've done on some function, this range is where the criteria will be checked, and the criteria is the condition to be checked. And average range is where we are the numbers to be like from which the average will be calculated. So the range here for the criteria to be checked is again departments. We select from B2 to B1001. Then we add a comma. We go back. We select business as a criteria. And I think you remember we can use quotation marks, open and close quotation marks, and have business inside there. But the problem with that, we could not be able to copy down the formula. And as we are still here, let's click F4 to lock the range. And now we are on criteria. We select P5 because that's where you have business. Add a comma for us to go to average range. Average range is where we have the score. I remember it's about score if I remember the question well. It's about the average. Let's check. Just checking. Yes, average score of students in different departments. The case here, the question was asking for engineering, but we chose to go for everything. So we will now select the score part for us to understand who actually um, like what is the average of score per department. Now we click enter after selecting the average range. Here we have 50 somethings, 50.00 and something. For us, we have already locked our data. That means we are good to go. But we can also lock here. Can also lock the average range so that it doesn't change when we copy down the formula. Let's try to copy down the formula. Here we have 51. Why do we have an error message? Don't actually need this. We can even simply because I've clicked here when I had already started the formula. Why do we have error signs? Can check this. Yeah, can ignore. I know the response is very correct. That is the process that you can follow to achieve this. And we can also have some other questions like the average of students who scored above 70. For instance, let's like average of students who scoring above above 70. Like the average of the scores that are above 70. Here we could go with average if again range, because the criteria is going to be about scores, average of the students of uh, marks or scores above 70. That means the range is going to be here, because that's where we are going to have the criteria. It's not now about a department. We can go like this. Now the criteria is something we need to add manually like this, above 70. We close, then we add a comma and average range. The average range will again be calculated from here. Then we go up, we close the bracket and we click enter. Like the average score of the scores that are above 70 is 86. Yeah, this is something you can try on your own for you to be more familiar. And I will of course add this data on the description for you to download and practice. Here we are good to go. We are very familiar with Sumif function, Countif function, Averageif function. In case you have any issues or challenges, feel free to ask questions using comment section. What's next from our note is Sumifs. And the difference here, we've been using one condition, but when it comes to Sumifs, that means we can go way more than one function and have as several as possible. But in our case, we can just keep practicing using uh, two functions or two conditions for you first to build acquaintance with the formula. Here we go with Sumifs. Okay, now what are we going to see? Let's check from our questions. We have a question about Sumifs. I can see we have question number 5. Use Sumifs to calculate the total fees paid for students in business with score above 60. We are going to calculate total fees paid for students in business on a condition that they have scored above 60. Here we have two functions. One is applying on department, the other one is applying on scores, having scored above 60. Again, we can try something like we can do like we've done above, calculating this per all departments, per each department, but making sure every student is meeting the other condition of having passed or scored above 60. Let's again copy and paste our departments just to do a bit different from the question. We go with Sumif, always starting with an equal sign. Choose Sumifs in this case. For this, we will start with a sum range. The sum range, the question was asking us the total fee paid by these students who are in business but also scored above 60. And we will, the sum range is where the total will be calculated from, which is from the fees column. Then we add a comma as usual. And here we have criteria range number one. This syntax is very helpful. You need to follow as you do your formulas, read and understand. So criteria number one is department, because we need to check students who are in the department of business. Then we come and select the entire column where we have data about departments. Again, add another column. We move up again. We are now going to add a criteria, which is business, and you have it here on G16, I mean J16. Then we add a comma. Adding a comma takes us to criteria range 2. Criteria range 2 is about score, like they are required to have scored above 60. That means we select here where we have scores. Again, we add a comma. Now here we need like that students must have scored above 60. Always open this with quotation mark and just add above 60. Close your quotation mark and close your bracket. We do enter. This is the total fee paid by students who are in business and have scored above 60. If we copy down without locking, you remember it's going to cause some problems. So we lock the formula, keeping in mind that we don't have to lock like criteria because we need it to keep changing. If we lock that, we always get it wrong because it will keep the same condition coming. This is the skill here. We are good to go again. One can just again be typing like this criteria manually as you have done, and when you total up maybe this, you can quickly total up these salaries just to see how much was paid by all these students. You can even change some criteria here and maybe make it 70 to see like those who scored 70 and above. Can do the same here. Maybe here let's do 80 to see whether the responses will change, and you can see the changes taking place. I believe this gives us the necessary knowledge to interact with Sumifs. You can just combine as many conditions as possible to come up with different uh, responses. For instance, we can think of another question, maybe trying to see a total of fees paid by students in engineering who have scored above 50 and have attendance above maybe above 70 and assignments have done assignments above 10. Let's try something like that. We just do for engineering. Let's have Sumif again. Sumifs. Sum range will again be salary. We'll be quick here because I've already seen how to go about this. We'll try to be quick. Then you could tell range one. Again, it's department. Have our comma. The condition is engineering. We add a comma again. Then criteria range 2, we have said in scores they should have scored at least 50. The criteria we always have to be quoted like this. We close this. Criteria number three, we said at least having attended, like having 70 and above of attendance. That means the criteria range will be this one for attendance. And then we've said it should be above 70. We open quotation marks, 70. Then on assignments, we said at least having done more than 10. We select this one. We add a comma. We add our criteria with quotation marks opened. Then like this, we close quotation marks. We close our bracket and click enter. This is the total. You can copy down again, but that would require locking some of the ranges. I mean, even order of ranges, but not locking the criteria like this. If we copy down, even upward, it works. You can know how many students achieved this and that given the other criteria we have discussed. This is something that you can really practice and be familiar with. Now, the very next thing is Averageifs. And of course, believe me, it's the same process. Averageifs functions. Let's have some look at it. We can again have the departments as usual. We don't haven't checked the question yet, but let's see what question is asked about it. The average ifs here is to calculate the average attendance for students with assignments less than 10 and score less than 50. Let's just deal with that one and we keep on. Now that we have already pasted the departments, let's first see maybe departments and less than. Let's do it per department. Less than 10 in scores and less than 50 in less than 10 in assignments and less than 10 in scores. But then for us, let's do it per department. Do equal Averageif. Choose Averageifs. Here we have average range. Was it asking about calculate the total average attendance for student? Okay, it's about attendance. Average range here is like attendance. We will start from this attendance. Okay, we will start with this attendance. And like from the we are going to see the average attendance of students who meet criteria number one being in a certain department. Let's go with business criteria range one. We select here. We add the comma as usual. We select this department. We add a comma. Now the second criteria is that they have scored. The first criteria is that they have done less than 10 assignments. That is the other criteria range. We are always using comma to separate items in our formula. The other criteria is that in scores they have less than 20. I think I still remember the question. Always remembering we need to close our our formula with a bracket. Here is the response. Like in a business, the average attendance of students who scored less than 50 in scores and attained less than 10 assignments, the average score is 70.2. We can lock our data just to make sure we can copy down the formula. Always keeping in mind if you copy without locking, it's going to be a mess. It's going to cause you problems. Everything is locked. Then we move down our formula, we copy down. It's a mistake. Maybe some of the things are not really locked. Can check. This should actually work out. Oh, yeah, some of the data are not locked because everyone can see that when we try to edit the formula, it is starting on the second line of data, which is the mistake I've been saying is caused by this issue of not locking or not locking with attention. Let's try to fix this. Some of the things might not be really locked, like this is not locked. Can't see. This wasn't well locked. Needs to be fixed. The same applies here. The same applies here. It requires a thorough research. I mean a thorough attention. Otherwise, one would mess up. Still have error message. And it might be something I will not really focus much on, given the fact that you have seen that, but we can really do the formula instead of copying and see what comes with that to make sure we are all aligned. Let's redo the formula. We have equal sign and we are required to calculate the average score, the average attendance of students in engineering who have scored less than 50 and have less than assignments in this data. Let's go with Averageif again. Averageifs, average range will be attendance. We do add a comma. Then criteria range one will be department because we need to do those ones for engineering. Then we select engineering. We do enter criteria range 2 is score or just assignment. Let's go with scores. They need to have less than 50. And the criteria range 3 is assignments, where they need to have less than 10. I'm actually using a long sign. This had to be less than. The same may apply here, less than 10. We close the bracket. Here we have the solution. So now it's happening, going along with copying down, but this is done without locking, so it might give us wrong responses. Yeah, this is it. And I think for locking, you've seen how just requires paying attention, just not copying down again, because the issues are taking much of our time. But the critical skill here was just using these averages. Now, as we head to our last thing, our last part of the content of today's learning is Countifs. For Countifs, the question was, if we can have one of the questions. Here we have the question number 4, like Countifs to count students who scored above 70 and have attendance above 90. Maybe here we can calculate just for all students, as the question is. I've tried to give different kinds of questions, make sure one could really try to understand things, but now you have understood. I can just try count if with the question as it's asked. In general, looking for the students who have scored above 70 and have attendance above 90. Let's go with an equal sign and countifs. We have criteria range 1. Like, what is the criteria range 1? The criteria number 1 is that students should have scored above 70. That means we are considering the score column, then we add a comma. We are required to look for students who have scored above 70. Then we close the quotation mark, add the comma. We go to criteria range 2. The criteria range 2 is students should have attendance above 90. That means the other criteria range is going to be this one. For attendance, we again use our comma to add the criteria number 2. Open quotation marks, then above 90, close quotation marks, close brackets, we do enter. We have only 41 students who have scored above 70 and attendance above 90. This is something you can also do per department. You can also add a condition saying that these students should maybe be in a certain department. Let's try adding another criteria range 3 for department. Then we add a criteria that they are in business, for instance. Just only 8. The good thing of using these manual things, when you need to see something else, you can quickly change that by just typing something like this. You have 0 in engineering. Let's see in arts. Maybe my bad, having removed the quotation marks might be contributing to the responses. Yes, you have 12 in arts. Let's again try science. have 9. Let's try engineering again and see whether it was an issue with back of calculation marks. We have 12. Yeah, this is something you can try on your own. So this is it for today, and we encourage you to stay tuned because a lot more are coming. We do our best to keep our videos, our tutorials human, like they are real. We are creating them in real time, demonstrating learning. We keep all trials and errors in the video for you to do not feel like alone. Errors are part of running. Don't feel discouraged anytime you find it hard. Just keep doing it, keep giving it the best, and feel free to ask questions in the chat box. We will be up to them to respond to you to help and clarify things and make sure you are moving from one step to the next. Share with your loved ones and look up for the next video about if other if functions and nested if.